Welcome back, everyone. And we all know how important it is to keep our customers engaged and satisfied. We've got an amazing speaker next who will share how to translate consumer intelligence into great customer experiences. Please welcome Rami Deeb. He's a marketing executive at Talkwalker. With 10 years of experience in the MENA region, Rami manages Talkwalker's digital marketing efforts for the MEA market, engaging with thought leaders, events, content distribution, and cross industry partnerships. Welcome, Rami, and over to you.
Thank you, Aziza, for the kind introduction. I'm very glad to be joining this esteemed event and meeting the community. Unfortunately, we couldn't have this year's event in person, but hopefully next year.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your attention this afternoon. I really am excited to be talking to you today about the latest trends and latest innovations in consumer intelligence. So, first of all, my name is Rami Deeb. As Aziza mentioned, I'm the marketing manager here at Talkwalker for all things in the MEA region. Can you hear me loud and clear? All right, yes. By the way, I apologize in advance if you hear any child playing with Legos. That's my nephew in the next door room. So consumer intelligence is a long story. So many people of us assume that it's just a matter of the times, something that has been enabled and accelerated by technology and data and all that. However, it sometimes is good to kind of take a step back and look at the roots of where consumer intelligence really started from and how it evolved over time. And it's really a story of human interaction at the core of it, if you want to look at it this way. So I want to tell you a short story about how about my dad. Actually, when I was younger, he had a restaurant, and every morning he would have a visitor visit him. He became friends eventually, but every morning he would ask him, give me the usual coffee. So, as many Arab or many people in the region, the first thing they do in the morning is have their cup of coffee with a cigarette and just have the chit chat, read the news, or either listen to music or whatnot. So what my dad didn't realize that over time, that consumer kept coming in, right? So there must be some reason why the person was coming in. And the thing is, it was working quite well over time. And this is just on a one-person scale, right? We're not talking millions of consumers. I'm just, kind of simplifying the subject as much as possible to get to my point. So the consumer kept coming over and over and over, and my dad was serving him the usual. However, this method, if you want to scale it up, it won't work, right? Because this interaction is very spontaneous. You cannot measure it. You cannot really replicate it in a very reliable manner, especially in the digital age. So moving on to the digital age, we have what we will call the pivot age, really. So you have all these data sheets, you have the computers, you have all these data points, which were the starting point for the web era in the early 2000s. You have all these data points, right? However, they were very segregated and they were very, how do I say, unreliably non-alive. So they're not live data. So they're static. They are mostly retroactive rather than proactive. So once you have the data sheets, it was already too late for you as a market researcher, as a marketer, as a product development manager. So this era was very limited in the sense of the scale of the technology, of the interconnectivity of the data. So you really cannot cross-reference data points at scale. Moving on to the mid 2010s, we have what we call the age of consumer intelligence. And we move away from data sheets to holistic intelligence. What does that mean? Beginning, we used to have 4 attributes of your typical consumer. Their name, their last name, their email, maybe the last item that they purchased. However, if you want to take it a step further, so the more polygons you have around your consumer, the clearer the vision you have. So 5 attributes you have, maybe their gender, their income bracket, whether or not they can afford this. So your targeting strategy is much better. Your messaging is going to be much more resonating with their interests. And moving on to the 8 attribute framework, where we have more on their average order size. So over time, you can see their habits. So are they buying on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on an annual basis? What were the last 10 products? Were they gifts or were they personal items? And essentially, that way you can categorize your consumer. You can put them in a category. And this is important if you're developing a product or if you're looking to expand in a new area. However, nowadays, I mean, I say here it's 25 attributes, but really there's an abundance of data points and knowledge about your consumer. I mean, nowadays we talk about the digital attention economy, right? And all this, at the core of this is artificial intelligence, because it really allows you to accelerate that journey from collecting the data to visualize it and to action upon it, right? Because there's no way a human can do all of this, right? And going back to the story of my father, who was doing it on a very unintentional, very human level, imagine that on a multi-million dollar level, where you have an omni-channel experience for consumers to interact with your brand on social, on digital, on TV, through word of mouth, through email, through events, and you name it. So it is quite difficult to track manually. So what I want to talk about now is that brands that really put the customer at the center of their operation, and this is very crucial. So beginning of when the World Wide Web started to go mainstream, it was mostly about the tech, right? Really building the website. You have to have a website. You have to have the latest tech built in, moving on from Flash to Web 3.0 and all that. So the mindset has shifted, and going on, the mindset shifted towards data-centric organizations. So they wanted to collect as many data as possible. Now, especially after COVID, consumers are taking charge. Consumers are really the pilots or the co-pilots who are navigating your brand's journey in the long run, because they are the ones who are going to be advocating on your behalf. They are the ones who are paying you, essentially, and they are the ones who are going to be defending your brand in case something bad happens. It's essentially a way not only to involve them in marketing, but also in all aspects of your organization. They have authority, and consumers know it nowadays. It's not like anything new. They know that if they post a TikTok about your brand and it goes viral, they know they have this agency. Because back then it was more of a top-bottom motion, but now it's more bottom-up in a sense. So as I mentioned, the 3 times revenue growth, and this is not small businesses, but this is rather large enterprises with global footprints. I just want to give a few examples. I don't want to go more in depth. Talkwalker is a consumer intelligence acceleration platform. What does that mean? Accelerating this consumer intelligence framework really is all about saving time and asking better questions and finding much better answers. And how do you do that, for example? I'm just going to move forward here. Talkwalker is a global organization, right? And we do have some of the biggest and most prominent names in the Middle East region, like Expo, like Rami, Adidas, and UNICEF Middle East. We've recently published a case study with UNICEF. I highly encourage that you guys download it and read more about how they used consumer intelligence into combating misinformation in the Middle East, misinformation surrounding COVID and vaccines. We have a team of over 500 experts across the world. A third of them is in data science and in engineering, and we take pride in being recognized as GDPR compliant and being a leader in the New Wave Leader report by Forrester, as well as G2, and we are one of 10 global partners of Twitter. What does Consumer Intelligence Acceleration Platform mean? In a nutshell, really, it's all about connecting the dots, right? It's all about having this bird's eye view over your consumer, wherever they are, however they're using your products, and it's all happening at scale, right? And in a sense, it's about building this understanding for the long run, rather than short-term envisioning. So nowadays, market researchers and marketers are all about predictive analytics, are all about setting the plan ahead of time, however, being agile enough to adjust while you move forward, right? So the times when strategies are set ahead of time and hoping for them to work are long gone. For 2022, we are anticipating people to be much more agile, much more customer centric and much more forward thinking rather than retroactively thinking. And this really would give you a competitive advantage, especially if you are thinking in the market that is very driven by Gen Z consumers, people who are very mobile, consumers who are very they have higher expectations than ever, especially after COVID. Because back then they were like, okay, I'll take it or not take it, but nowadays they have this power to change the narrative really. Some key brands really use our platform to really you obviously we do social listening. However, this is not the whole picture. So you connect all these channels of conversations, the voice of the customer, as my acquaintance was talking about earlier, and you action it through this platform where you're able to form this full picture, and then you act upon it, whether through obviously marketing, sales, commerce, supply chain, advertising, etc. I don't want to take so much of your time, so I'm just going to go through my presentation really. Here are some of the ways that consumer intelligence could be applied in the real world. And that is a mistake that some organizations fall into, thinking that consumer intelligence really is all about marketing or advertising or maximizing the return on investment, whereas it really is a very versatile tool. And it allows your organization at any level, whether sales, BDR, product development, go-to-market, marketing, even on the C-level executives, because sometimes it's you could be dealing with a PR crisis. You need to measure your share of voice. You need to promote your business in a new geography that has a different cultural understanding of your brand. This happens especially with brands that have names that might not resonate well, so they adjust it accordingly. So this is all based on data. I'm not going to mention any brands, but like some brands do change their names, across regions, and they're very well known. Okay, so the key ingredients for CX, as I wrap all this up, it's going to be relevancy, empathy, and consistency. Going back to the story of my father and how he was interacting, it was all unintentional, but nowadays we have the tools to do this at scale. And it's think of it as a mass persuasion campaign, a personalized mass persuasion campaign, where you are able to encourage people to join you on board, encourage people in a very personalized and very human way, without really sacrificing any of the experience elements. So these are the key points. Technology is really the accelerator to this. It's not the solution. You need to always ensure their happiness of your consumers, and also make sure that you meet their expectations, not only cover them in a very broad umbrella. This is it for me today. If you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to connect. And this is my email on the screen. I want to thank Aziza and Sneha for organizing this. And the floor is back to you, Aziza.
Thank you, Rami, so much for sharing the ingredients for great customer experiences. And I love the personal story that you've shared as well. It will definitely help our audience relate and connect better to their customers. So thank you so much again.